That's good. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Shepard, Chairman of the Baker County LPA, calling to order the meeting for Thursday, April 10th, 2025. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Appreciate it. We've got a full house, got a full agenda. We'll go ahead and get started. If you can join us with the prayer and the pledge, and then we'll continue through the agenda. Okay? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today as stewards of the land, humbly seeking your grace, wisdom, and mercy. Guide us in our planning and decisions, that we may protect the beauty and bounty of this county, a small but vital part of America. God, grant us the discernment to balance growth with preservation, ensuring this land remains a blessing for generations to come. We lift up our service members at home and abroad, asking your protection over their lives as they stand for our freedom. Watch over them, Lord, and strengthen us all to honor their sacrifice through our work. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier before we opened up, if you'd like to have public comments on anything, there are speaker cards in the back. Fill them out with your name and address, and then come forward and you can speak into the microphone and just share your comments so we have that recorded. All right, moving on. Is anybody here for anything that's not on the agenda? That you had anything else? Okay, just wanted to call that out. So moving on with the next order of business is the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had time to review the minutes? Yes.
That's right.
We won't need to do that. Okay, so can I say one thing on that? So I'm going to announce that, but I'm also going to make a recommendation that, when these things go out, that where it says rezoning and this, that, and the other, put the ordinance number on there so it's easy for quick research in the future. Okay. All right, thank you. As you guys know, there's some stuff going on locally. So the clerk of the court is now responsible for taking the minutes, so we will not approve the minutes. That is the responsibility of the clerk of the court. That is no longer our jurisdiction. Thank you for that. Madam Director, I would like to say that when you talk with those folks, that they also include on the minutes the ordinance number for each agenda item, so that here's a pass-fail, and then it can become a quick and easy keyword search for future reference. Okay? All right. That was quick and easy. All right, let's move on to the first order of business. Well, Madam Chair, do you want to jump to item number 2 first? And
we can touch on it once we get there.
all right then. Okay, first order of business is variance for Vihori Homes. To you, ma'am.
Good evening.
Hello.
So if I can just note that since we do have multiple applications tonight, that once your application is heard, you don't have to stay for the entirety of the meeting. So, if your application is first on the list, you don't have to stay for all applications. So just wanted to make that clear. Alrighty. So the first application that we have is for a variance for relief of a paved road requirement. This parcel is located off of Ray Phillips Road. It is currently 5.62 acres with a land use of very low density residential, and the current zoning is residential, conventional, and mobile home 1. So within that zoning district, it is required to have direct access to a county-maintained paved road. However, Ray Phillips is one of our county maintained roads that is partially paved and partially unpaved. So you'll see from our land use and zoning maps that everything around this parcel has the same land use and zoning, very low density residential and RCMH 1. You'll see the back portion of this property is within the flood zone, so we just like to show that there. One of the requirements of the variance is that it has to not be feasible for the applicant to change whatever the request is. So with this being a county maintained, partially paved, partially unpaved road, it's not feasible for the applicant to pave the remainder of the road to get to their parcel. If you guys remember, we had 2 other ones on this very same road last year. So while we're working through our code update this year, this will be one of those areas that we definitely touch on to maybe change some of that verbiage. So this application does meet all of the criteria for variance, so staff recommends approval. And just a reminder, this is one of those types of applications that LPA has final decision.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Comments from the board?
I have none.
Good. All right. So what's the pleasure of the board for the variance for the road requirements?
A motion to approve variance, seeking relief from road requirements.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Motion carries. Yes, and I agree. This is road maintenance or roads is one of our things.
Absolutely.
Okay. And yeah, part of the road out there is paved and part of it's not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the next application, there are companion applications for number 2 and number 3. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to present those together just to save on time and energy for us. And I would also like to note that the agenda and staff report that was sent out last week has been revised, and the recommendation has changed. So you should have an updated staff report there with you.
Okay. That just got passed out. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at it? This is for the Ecom property, Jeffrey and Joel Ecom.
It's not updated online, so.
No, it's not. Here you go.
Now their packets,
Oh, you
it's
guys
in
got
their
it?
packets, but
All
I
right.
think Gabe was looking at electronically, so it wouldn't be in his. Okay, so this set of companion applications is for ordinance number 2025-06, a small-scale land use amendment, and ordinance number 2025-07 for a rezoning. This parcel is owned by Mr. Jeffrey Econom. It is off of Harvest Lane, which comes off of 125 if you're heading north. It is currently 9.5 acres with a current land use of agriculture B and a current zoning of agriculture 7.5. So this parcel was created in 2019, and at the time of its creation, it was non-conforming. The subject parcel has 2 traditional site-built homes and a 2-story structure containing some sort of multifamily living quarters. The applicant's intention is to correct these issues and bring the parcel into compliance for future land use and allowing for the potential of a future family lot for a child. So you will see here 3 sides of the property has the same current land use and zoning, but to one side there is very low density residential and RCMH 2.5, which is what the request is. So this parcel was a portion of what was formerly known as Camp Tracy, and so back in 2019 that property was separated, and essentially the road split it in half. So again, there's 2 site-built homes and a 2-story structure that were already on the the property before it was purchased. The two-story structure and that side of the property, we do have several code enforcement violations on the property. Due to the two-story structure and its use, multifamily use is not allowed within these zoning districts, within either of these zoning districts. And the number of RV connections would not be allowed without going through some sort of process for that.
Right.
Now, I will say when the property was purchased, those were already there. You know, the property owners did not construct this two-story structure.
Yeah, the houses and the
Right.
two-story structure was there, but the RV park or whatever you want to call it.
Some of the RV hookups were there. They were
Okay.
there for previous use when it was part of Camp Tracy. But during the code enforcement process, the property owners were made aware that, you know, this would not be any use that they had under that Camp Tracy would no longer be usable, and they would have to go through a process for that. So that's part of the reason that you'll see my recommendation changed from approval to be tabled. Initially, I had recommended approval, and I had recommended approval in order to start the process to get this parcel where it needs to be. After doing a little bit more research and looking
due
into,
diligence.
Yeah, looking into the parcel a little bit more, I did decide that it would be in the best interest to table the application until all code enforcement violations were satisfied, and then let's look at the rezoning and what that process looks like then.
And I would echo your comments because I know this property. I've been out by it. Last time I was out there, there's the barn, or that big two-story structure with the storage area underneath it. It's got old wind damage, so that damage is damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of ours, but that's code enforcement. But then the RVs that are out there, I don't know, there's between 7 and 9 RV hookups, no common septic or anything like that. And then to come in and ask for a family lot provision, that puts us at like 13 residents. If you take the RVs, the 4 apartments that are mentioned in here, and the side built home, and then add the daughter-in-law, that's 14 families or residents on 9.5 acres.
Right. Yeah. And as far as the number of hookups and how they're hooked up and septic and everything, that's not something that I have all of that information to be able to give you. If we went through a process for an RV park or RV campsites, then we would address that individually. But we just know that they are there and there are multiple. And kind of the same thing with the two-story structure. You know, we haven't been inside that structure, so I can't say how many living quarters might potentially be in it. But the RCMH 2.5 RCMH 2.5 zoning, once approved, would allow for 3 single-family dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2 single-family dwellings that are there could stay with no issue, and the 2-story structure could either be renovated into one single-family structure, or could be removed and replaced with a single-family structure.
Yeah, but first
of
we
some
want
sort.
to take care of the code compliance
Right,
issues.
right.
So I'm in favor of that. Any comments from the board?
Is that all you had?
What is it?
That's all you had on your presentation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Not at the moment. I would like to hear from the applicant.
Yeah. You guys? Okay. Is the applicant here?
They are. Yeah.
Would you guys like to speak? Any comments? Okay. So essentially what's happening is we're not going to make any judgment or pass or fail your application. We're going to table it if the board agrees.
Mm-hmm.
Table it to give you time to work with the county and the code enforcement to take care of the code enforcement issues that are out there, and then come back before us. Because if to go through and approve it now and then hope that you take care of the code enforcement issues later, we're just trying to stop that becoming a future problem. Let's take care of the issues that we have here. Let's address the dwellings on the property, and then come back, and then we'll talk through splitting it off. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
We're just here because that's what they told us to do.
all right. And she's our girl, so, I mean, work with LaDonna. And LaDonna, if you got any questions or if I can help, you can reach out to me. Okay, so folks, for this one, we're going to table it for now. LaDonna and Code Enforcement will be in touch, and then we'll get all that cleaned up, and then we'll come back and rehear this. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Do we need
Have
to
a good
vote on
evening.
that?
Yeah, you'll.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
well,
sorry.
we got
Yeah,
it.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you'll
I'm
need-
sitting
you'll
here.
still
I've
get
got-
Sorry, Gabe, I'm getting ahead of the
vote
game.
in-
Sorry. Chill out, man.
Vote in public comment.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the board? So do we want to table this, or do we want to go ahead and have the conversation? Staff recommendation is to table it until code enforcement violations are cleaned up.
I'm
extremely confused right now. So,
Okay.
I mean, if we can just humor me and help
Yeah,
me
sure.
understand.
Absolutely.
Go right ahead, LaDonna.
I mean, in looking at the staff report, as part of the background summary at the beginning, in the next to the last sentence, it says that the parcel would need to be compliant and all code enforcement violations satisfied before any permits could be issued.
Yes.
So if we're tabling this just to clean up code problems that we still have, it seems like we still have a tangible item that the applicant is potentially seeking to obtain in a permit that can be withheld so that these things can be, until these things are cleaned up.
Yes.
So help me understand what is there additional background here, because I'm surprised and shocked that an applicant is publicly stating that they have no idea what's going on. I find that extremely confusing, and that's not like our county administration.
It's not. So I'll tell you, I found additional information this afternoon that
Okay.
made me change my recommendation.
Okay.
And it was very late this afternoon.
So
there was not time to.
So are we?
How long have these ordinances been out there? The code enforcement
It
violations?
has been.
Is this
It's been
something that's
ongoing since 2023.
I would like to hear from the applicant what the intent is on the subject property, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, we just,
You got it. If you could, you have to come to the mic and state your name, address, and just explain the purpose of the application, if you could.
my name is Jeff Econom. The property is at 110,006 Harvest Lane, which is basically off of Cruise Road, Camp
Okay.
Tracy. Since we bought this property, it's...
In what year was that?
When did we buy it? 2019, and we've been going through zoning and whatever, just trying to work with LaDonna of how to make it in compliance. And she said, well, you should go to this RCMH, and that's all we're here for. We got a letter saying, okay, whatever you say to do, we just do. And that's all we're here for.
Okay. So are
That's
you
it.
aware of any code violations?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. So unaware of that.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
had codes out there.
Okay.
They didn't find anything, or at least anything that I know of.
Okay.
We haven't heard anything.
Okay. And what's the intent for the application to split?
No, just to come to
change the zoning?
compliance.
Okay.
That's all it says is compliance.
Gotcha. So
To zone, but there was also.
what's the purpose that we're coming in compliance to do? We're coming in compliance to do something.
Yes, to change the land use and the zoning to RCMH 2.5. So,
Because
Potential
they
family
already,
lot for,
Thank you, Jared. So they already own the parcel. They already live on the parcel.
Yes, sir.
And so if you already live there and you already own it, we're here for a reason, right? And what's that reason? Someone remind
so
me.
that they can create a family lot
They want to create,
for their
they
daughter.
want to split off a piece of the land, right? Is that
Yeah.
true?
Future. Yes, sir. Future.
Okay, so we're here because we want to potentially split off some of the land. And you can't currently do that with the zoning that you have. Am I understanding everything correctly, LaDonna? Is that right?
Yes.
correct.
Okay. All right. And the county has some heartburn with this because of some information that we found. Okay.
Clear?
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I
So
didn't.
that if we just found some information out late this afternoon, haven't had time to have a sit-down meeting with the applicant.
That's why I'm suggesting to table it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that that we just walk through that, right, publicly, so that folks who are watching online or in the audience hear a citizen say, I have no idea why. Let's walk and through this thing and break it down so that we understand why we're potentially pivoting from
Absolutely, I
an
agree.
approval to kick
Absolutely.
this thing down, because I mean this is gonna roll a month now, right? So that's all. I just want to make sure. I was completely lost, so just for my own
Okay.
piece of
Sorry, I thought it was clear,
So-
but that's good.
At least
So-
a
Do you
month.
understand that now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it, not like it. It is now. It's
Sure.
clear, right?
Yeah, it's clear.
And hopefully, I think Miss LaDonna wants to do everything she can to help as many people.
She's been great.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Glad you have good things to say about
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments before we come
Yeah,
back to the
some.
board? Yeah, come on up.
Is it appropriate to speak now, or you want to wait till?
No, you can come on up. Just fill out your speaker cards.
Are you-
Hey, Miss LaDonna, can you get them to?
I think they
Is this pertaining to
Oh.
the same?
Same.
It
I got Betty and I got Jordan's, but the applicant. Can somebody fill out one for the applicant?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make sure.
Is there a timeline set for this?
They're the applicant.
Are we just tabling it till the next meeting, or are we tabling it till just a later date?
Honestly, that depends on how things lay out. Like I said, we just got some information late this afternoon, and some conversations have to be had with the property owner.
All right.
My name is Jordan Center. I live in a contiguous property next to Mr. Econon, which is behind him. I was there before him. I'll be up front with you. I'm a grumpy old policeman, so y'all bear with me. What I have out there is a family estate that I put in a trust for all my children, all my sons. We're not going anywhere. Again, our property is behind. I had pictures, but that's okay. I'll try to explain.
I put them for you.
Okay.
So you have 3 slides.
No, I'm not too smart. This may be too much for me. So,
Okay, so you have 3 slides.
okay.
That's going to go each way, and if you want to use the pointer, you press the green button and
If you're right
point
here,
that
I'm
way.
in the body for that question. So, again, I've been out there before Mr. Econom was there, and from the very beginning, this property's never been in compliance. I understand regulations, I understand the law intimately. I've read it and handled it for over 40 years, both compliance and criminal. There's 7 structures out there now. They stay full regularly. Now, this week, there's nobody in them, but consistently, people are living, I call it start pushing buttons. I'm gonna call it the ice house. Is that in there, Miss
Opposite-
LaDonna?
No.
Opposite way.
Opposite
Going the
way,
opposite
okay.
way.
All right, story, going the wrong way. So, it's,
One more.
in essence,
Yep, there's your first
in
one.
essence, it's a rental place for the whole thing. You see all the doors right there, he keeps it rented out with people. Underneath, I don't know if you can tell, I'm not the best photographer, but you can see when I say junk cars, I'm talking about total cars that'll never be drivable again. That's what's underneath it. He came in and put, of course, there's the RV, he just put 5 or 7, y'all, I apologize for not remembering the exact number, brand new RV. Well, you can see them right there to your left, boxes, sewage. I mean, that's been done within the last 30 days. My line of work, we call that a clue about the intention of why that's being done like that. He's got the RVs that stay there. This is, on the bottom right, is his son-in-law's. It's not his son-in-law, it's his ex-son-in-law's place that he gave up his homestead exemption for. Now he wants to put another homestead exemption in for his daughter. On this 9 acres of property, what does that bring us up to? Somebody help me with my math right there.
I think like 13 on it, but that
It's not going to
becomes.
be 1 per acre, which it is zoned now. If you change it, that allow him to go up to, if my math's correct, ballpark, 19 per acre. I didn't move out there for that. This is on a half a mile off a main hard paved road. You can imagine the traffic going in and out. the RV traffic, heavy RVs going in and out. Coming as a prior first responder, I don't understand how you're gonna get a emergency apparatus in there from the fire department.
Well, what's being done here is that's not within what he should be doing here. That's why he's got the code enforcement violation. That's got to be stopped.
Yes, and that's what
First and
That's-
foremost,
that's the point I
that's
wanna
got to
make.
be stopped.
Okay, that's the point I want to make. I invite all of you, come out there and look at it yourself, form your own conclusion. I promise you, you'll change your mind. But again, I didn't move out there for that. If there's no other place like that around there, because it's all rural and agricultural out there. I'll leave it at that, and I'll come speak if it goes farther. But I've got the photos to substantiate what I'm saying. I'm not just saying it. I can show you. Like the Chinese proverb said, a picture in 1,000 words. I'll let you look at it and come to your own conclusion. So, well, I can't show those. That's sure. Oh, okay. Very good, very good. So, I'm not opposed to it. I'm adamantly opposed to it, and that's why.
Okay. Any questions from Mr.
anybody?
Center?
I'll let me off light.
You're opposed to this, which anybody would be. But the application that he's submitted
Let's circle back on that in that I read it also.
is from 7.5 to 2.5.
Why in the world, and thank you for stopping that, would we give him an okay for this and tell him to get it into compliance? It'd be the equivalent of me giving somebody who can't drive a driver's license and say, when you can drive, come back and see me. We just can't do business like that. So,
Well, he would be nearly butting properties with the same zoning districts. There is RCMH 2.5 within a rock's throw of this parcel.
that's an old farm. This Pastor McCormick, who was in charge of all this when it was all.
I can't help what
let's-
Mr.
let's-
McCormick did or what prior zoning
let's
done.
do
All
this,
we can
Mr.
do
King.
is that there is 2.5 within a rock's throw of this parcel.
And everything else on the other three sides is 7.5.
That's correct. And
So we're gonna heed to the one?
no, I think that there's another block of 2.5s. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that I would be for it or against it. I'm just simply stating the facts. The facts are that there's a blotch. What I would consider, if you zoom really far out, what I am not a proponent for is spot zoning, which it appears that there's a cluster of spot zoning in this area.
And again, I've lived out there for a while. That's all those same properties that were originally the Camp Tracy. And I talked to, and the other thing, coming from my background that I do, I went and saw Dr. Murray, who was the previous zoning director out here, and she told me then that it would not ever change because it had changed, the zoning had changed so much. And I bought that with that insurance, thinking that was the way it would be. I didn't think I'd be here years later having to fight this battle all over again.
Well, now,
Life's in real estate. I have an intimate understanding of how this all goes.
but I will say, Mr. Center, that on that yes, and it's good that you've done your due diligence before you bought it and everything else, but respecting personal property rights as well. So if somebody else moves out somewhere and they want to change their zoning, it's their right to come before us and ask for that. So that's why we have these hearings, not hearings, but meetings, that we can sit down with you, the landowner, and the new applicant and kind of talk through that. And that's part of the reason that we have the ordinances, and we're going through our LDRs and our comp plan now to make sure there's no ambiguity in them, because we've got some conflicting language between the two documents right now. So we are working with LaDonna to, for lack of a better word, homogenize them or bring them into harmony. So we do have objective checklist and everybody's on the same page. Make sense?
Appreciate it. Understand it.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Gay?
No, sir.
Gents?
I think I'm good.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? And Gabe, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry I was running on and I thought that the understanding was there. So thanks for correcting me on that. So what's the pleasure of the board? Do we follow? Is there a recommendation or a motion to accept the staff report to table this? And any other comments on that? Jared, I know you were asking about timeline.
Yeah, we don't have any idea when he's gonna come into compliance.
No.
Well, I don't think she's even talked to him, have you?
Right.
Yeah, no, we have not,
And he-
we haven't had a chance to have those discussions yet, so.
As far as we know, he was unaware that he wasn't in compliance until this week, according to him.
Yeah, per what he said, yes. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? Is there a motion to table this until staff comes back with the next application? Or do we want to table it for 30 days and come back and get a status update?
Yeah, I'll motion to table it as far as timeline.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Until resolution of the violations.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, so ordinance number 2025-06, Econom, tabled until further notice, until the code enforcement issues are resolved, and then we'll rehear the application. Okay? Make sense?
Yep.
All right, thank you, everyone. Okay. Next, Ms. LaDonna?
Yeah, there is two,
Oh,
yeah, there's a companion there, so.
sorry. Okay, I need a motion to table ordinance number 2025-06, small-scale land use development from Ag B to very low-density residential. To table that until further notice, until code compliance issues are resolved. Is there a motion?
Motion to table.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded to table ordinance number 2025-06, small-scale land use amendment from Ag B to very low-density residential. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion carries. Tabled. Thank you.
So the next three applications that we have are companion applications, all three of them. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll present them together.
Yes, please, in the interest of time, yes, ma'am.
So this is for ordinance number 2025-09, a small-scale land use amendment. The request is from agriculture B to very low-density residential. With two companion rezonings, ordinance number 2025-10, rezoning with the request of Ag 7.5 to RCMH 2.5. And the other companion is ordinance number 2025-11, request from Agriculture 7.5 to Agriculture 5. This parcel is located on 121 North. It is just past Sawmill Road where the thrift property is there. It's just past that. It's currently 7.5 acres with a current land use of Agriculture B, a current zoning of Agriculture 7.5. Currently, the parcel is in compliance and it contains one site-built home. It's the intention of the property owners to subdivide the parcel into two separate parcels and create one that is 2.5 acres and one that is 5 acres. So that's why you see three companions here. The land use amendment goes with the 2.5 acre zoning, and then the 5 acre would not require a land use change. So you'll see this area immediately touching the parcel is very similar land use and zonings. But you'll see most of those parcels are quite a bit smaller than that Ag 7.5. You'll see just to the north there is some very low density residential that's kind of at the corner of the caution light there at Stillbridge. There's also some commercial and some industrial kind of mixed in here too. So again, the parcel is already compliant now with just the one site-built home and 7.5 acres. But in order to subdivide and create a 2.5 acre parcel and a 5 acre parcel, that's why we have this land use and zoning request. It would be the intention to build a site-built home on the 5 acre portion as well and sell both parcels. Staff does recommend approval. It is this area, it is kind of a mixed area. Most of those parcels immediately surrounding it are not quite 7.5 acres, except for those large tracts to the south. So staff recommends approval. If you have any questions, the property owner is here.
Comments from the board?
Is the intention for a site-built home on this lot? The separate lot that's gonna be? Is there a reason it's not RC 2.5 rather than RCMH?
Thank you, you just took,
So the RC zonings are for smaller districts. So everything that's larger than 1 acre is going to allow mobile homes. And so it was not their wish to have that 1 acre density. So that's kind of the give back from
Is there any
that.
plan drawn?
Yeah. And they
Showing
have
the split?
No, yes, we do have surveys that show it's been surveyed separately to show each parcel. And it's honestly gonna pretty much right around here. The north 2.5 acres would be separated with the house, and then the 5 acres to the south would be the second parcel.
And the 2.5 staying with the current home that's there.
Yes.
yes.
And it's already a site built.
Yes.
Then you've
Yes.
got 5 acres left, 2.5, which is pretty much high and dry, and then the south end of that property is,
Right.
they're not gonna build on that.
Right.
So nothing will be on the other side.
And it wasn't the intention to, we talked about RCMH 2.5 for the entire parcel, but it was not their intention to have 3 parcels, for that, any wetness that's there,
entire
or,
parcels,
that's not really the density that they were looking for. This creates 1 secondary parcel, with one more home.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Is the applicant here? Would they like to speak? Yeah, if you'd like to.
I mean, yeah.
No, you don't have to. I'm just giving you the opportunity.
If you have any questions or anything like that, happy to answer.
Any questions for the applicant? Gabe?
No, just zooming out some, just to see, make sure we're not in a spot zone in here.
Yep. Okay. So we've got 3 different applications with this.
But with that being on a state road, are they putting in another driveway, culvert?
Yes, and they'll go through DOT for that.
Yep. Well, that, and not related specifically to this application, but back to Jared's point, should we look, like you said, residential conventional 1 is for these smaller districts. Do we look at something like this? And I'm not trying to create more overhead, but do we look at splitting RCMH 2.5, that there's RC 2.5 and RCMH 2.5? That's a discussion for down the road.
Right.
But back to your point, Jared, because if we had a zoning of RC 2.5, we could stipulate or recommend that. That way it's restricted just to a site-built home.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it matters to
Yes.
the neighbor. If
Yeah,
you're putting-
exactly.
If you're gonna move an old mobile home in here,
Right.
or if you're gonna build a new house.
Yep. So that might be a future consideration when we go through the comp plan. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? And then we'll just go one by one after we get the first one.
A motion to approve ordinance number 202509, small scale land use amendment, MAG B to very low density residential.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-09, small scale land use amendment from Ag B to very low density residential. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This one approves. Okay, the next is the companion application, ordinance number 2025-10, rezoning.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-10, rezoning.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-10, rezoning from Ag 7.5 to residential conventional mobile home, RCMH 2.5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. And finally, the last one, the land use, ordinance number 2025-11. Do I have a motion?
Sure. Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-11, rezoning.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-11, rezoning from Ag 7.5 to Ag 5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, all three approved and carried. Back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you. And for the applicant, sir, we're done, so everything was approved. You're welcome to stay and listen to the other ones, or enjoy the rest of the evening.
Did we do public comment on that one?
I ask, yes.
Okay, good. I missed that.
Okay, next, ma'am.
All right. The next application that we have, they're companion as well. So if it's okay with you, we'll.
Yeah, just follow the same.
So this is for
Strategy.
ordinance number 2025-15, a small-scale land use amendment. The request is from Agriculture B to medium-density residential, with a companion of ordinance number 2025-16, a rezoning from agricultural 7.5 to residential, conventional, and mobile home 0.5. So this parcel is located off of Clarence Bennett Road. That comes off of 125 North. This is just past the intersection of 127 and 125, right before you get to Noah Rollerson and the county park. So its current acreage is 0.77 of an acre. And like I just said, the current land use is Ag B and the current zoning is Ag 7.5. So this parcel was created in 2015 and is vacant and obviously non-conforming. Prior to 2015, this parcel was part of a larger tract, but the additional acreage was on the other side of Clarence Bennett Road. So this portion of the acreage was cut off from the other portion. Of course, not making that ideal. Prior to 2015, prior to the subdivision of this parcel, it was a temporary family lot back in the 90s. One family member owned all of it. They had a temporary family lot, and temporary family lots have the stipulation that if at some point that immediate family member isn't living there anymore, the dwelling has to be removed. So when time came, that family member wasn't living there, the dwelling was removed. So there is already a well and septic on this portion, on that portion of the property. So it was sold as such. So everything around this parcel is agricultural zone B with Ag 7.5 zoning. So here's a survey. You'll see this was the rest of the acreage. This is the parcel that you're looking at, and there's where the road comes in between. And you'll see that where the septic and the drain field, there's also a pond area on this parcel. So again, it did used to be part of the other acreage, was used as a temporary family lot.
By the current owner?
Was not
Current
in
owner's family?
the current owner's family, yes. So this was sold from one brother to another brother. Since then, the larger tract has been sold. So, we talked through, putting it back together with the larger parcel and then going through some sort of family lot process. That's not feasible at this point because the larger tract has been sold outside of the family. So this would not be a usable parcel or buildable parcel outside of the rezoning. So staff recommends approval simply because there was a structure on this portion at one time, and the well and septic are still there and still usable. And so that's my reason for approval. And the property owner is here if you have questions.
Okay. Comments from the board?
Did the property owner own the property when it was parceled out like this? And
So
Or is it sold?
one brother owned all of it,
Mhm.
and he sold this portion to his brother. So when so a brother owned this, and his daughter was there as a temporary family lot.
Yeah.
Daughter moved away. He sold this portion to his brother, and then sold the other portion to someone else down the road.
And to combine them, he can't do that now because the larger portion has
The
been sold
ownership
outside the family.
has changed
All right.
outside of the family. Right.
Okay. So my question is this, your recommendation of medium density residential, because that allows 2 to 8 dwellings per acre. So why didn't we recommend very low density residential?
Because the 0.5 zoning has to be medium density. Very low density is for 1 acre or more.
Say that again?
So if you look very low density, so are you talking about the medium density versus very low density?
Yes, yes I am.
Yes, so medium density is generally where that RC MH 0.5 and that RC 0.5, that's where you find those. Very low density is for tracts that are 1 acre or more, that RCMH1 or RC1.
Well, that's a bit confusing. Okay. So we're recommending medium density because of the,
That is the companion land use
Right.
for the
For half acre.
yeah,
the
understood.
zoning. Mhm.
Okay. I just wanted clarity on that. Okay, Gabe?
How long ago was the family lot used?
In the mid to late 90s.
So it was out of use in the 2000s.
It was.
Okay. And then we sold the
removed
land in
2015.
and 15 years later.
Yes.
So we had 15 years to correct this problem.
I could see why you would say that. Yes.
Okay.
But if
And then the
nobody's
large-
doing anything with it,
So the concern is, I think tonight we've already seen how like setting a precedent can walk us away from the
yes.
from the intended county comprehensive plan.
Right.
So understand it, like you bought a non-conforming lot. Sometimes that's why you can get a good deal on them, is you're gonna run into some potential challenges. So.
What stops the guy that's next door that owns 6.7 acres to go get RCMH 0.5 and go put 12 double-wide mobile homes on that land?
Nothing.
I understand that concern.
So, I think it's unfortunate, but I think that there were 15 years to correct this. We wouldn't be having to spot zone. That's 110% what I will consider spot zoning to the T.
Absolutely.
And as anyone who has been around, listened, watched, came to these meetings, I'm probably the most vocal opponent of spot zoning. So I can't. I hate it. It's unfortunate, but I can't get behind this one
Okay.
for those reasons, right? So I mean, we had time to correct the problem. Problem did get rectified. If the temporary residence was removed in the 90s, and we're sitting in 2025, how do we know that well and septic's working? It may be there, but do we have something that says, I mean, and that's beyond, even if it was working, it wouldn't change my mind.
Yeah.
You know, but just another, we say it's there, but what does it do? So yeah, no, can't.
Well, then the other side of this is what relief is there for the landowner? Now it's just going to sit as a vacant piece of property. You know, I understand the whole delay, and that's hopefully why we will get through our comp plan and everything else and have an objective checklist. And then with the GIS mapping that the county's doing and everything else, we can identify some of these things so they're not sitting for 25 years. You know, but respecting the landowner's request, what relief is there for him if this gets denied?
What relief is there?
Well, yeah,
any
he's wanting
suggestion.
to. He's
Relief,
asking for
suggestion,
yeah.
Right.
He's asking for the.
You're asking what is his option?
Huh?
His
Yeah.
option
what's his
is
option
to go
now?
buy the land around him and make and then add his lot in with the land that he buys
That's
to then make it a 7.5 acre piece of land.
There's a lot of assumptions with that. One, you're assuming that they want the extra land. Two, you're assuming that land's for sale. And then three, do I want to buy extra land just so I can have this piece compliant?
Or
you
sell
ask
it.
for options.
Yeah.
Sell it is
I'm
the
just
other
providing an option. Yeah.
Okay.
Farm, there are multiple permittable uses of land in an Ag 7.5 district. So he is more than welcome to go take his land and perform any of those permittable uses in the Ag 7.5 district.
Gents, any comments?
None further.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think you set a precedent if you push it through.
Well,
As unfortunate as it is
but then
for the landowner, you've got a non-conforming lot on a quarter of an acre in 7.5 acre zone.
Well, then the other question is, how do we prevent this going forward? We don't have all the GIS mappings. Until somebody comes forward with an application, we're going to continue to stumble over this. So are we saying here as a board that tonight we're going to stand on record that there will be no more spot zoning regardless of what the application is? And as of April 10th, 2025, all other future spot zoning is suspended. Because we can't say refuse this one and then an application comes in May or June or next year, and then all of a sudden we reverse ourselves. So I think we have to make a decision
Well, Greg,
as a board.
I think that's why there's no hard set policy in place, is because every situation has its story, right?
And if I may, so when I am kind of going through to make my recommendation for approval or denial, I try to look at it that way, that each application is kind of its own. And if this one for me would have been a recommendation of denial if it was not for the fact that the road was separating it from the other acreage and it being used that way previously and having a well and septic. So if we weren't looking, if this was a piece of raw land that hadn't been used and it wasn't separated by the road, then I would not be open-minded to recommending approval. Kind of what you're saying, we have to look at it case by case. You can't say no spot zoning, because there may be a situation that on paper looks like spot zoning, but
Yes, but let's have some criteria. So
Right.
spot zoning is approved if there's a road that bisects the property. Spot zoning is not allowed if it's part of a contiguous piece of property. 25 acres, then I want to split out, 70 or 1 acre out of that. Something of that nature.
really
But-
define what spot zoning is.
So the current landowner of the 3/4 of an acre here, the .77, purchased this property in what year?
2015.
In
So they've owned
2015.
it for 10 years.
And he purchased it as .77 acres.
Yes.
in
Yes.
2015
Yes,
as a non-conforming lot.
yes.
Can I address more?
Yeah, absolutely. The property
Yes.
owner
Yes,
is
sir.
here.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And when you get a chance, fill out a speaker card for us.
I just, when I bought the piece of property, I thought it was buildable lot because it had a home on it in 1990. I did not know that it was not, and I'd have to go through rezoning to
Hold
get
on.
rezoned.
You bought the property in 1990?
No, I bought it from my brother when
He
him
bought
and
it
his
in
wife got
1990.
divorced. He moved to Steny Hatch, Florida, and he had done give that piece of property to his daughter.
Okay.
His daughter lived on it for a little while, put the well septic tank and all that down, and then she moved to Steny Hatch.
Okay.
And then they sold a piece of property to me. If I'd have known it was a non-conforming lot, I would have never bought it.
Mhm.
And that might be my fault because I didn't check into it at that time.
Well,
I
but that
think
is
because it
a
had well
challenge that
septic
we've
tank
got
and
out
all
here.
that it was conforming,
Yeah.
you know. That's the reason I bought the piece of property, because I thought it was, that I could build on it later on.
And I would understand that there being a dwelling on there before.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, because, and that's an unfortunate thing that happens out here. We've got a lot of land that is non-conforming because in the state of Florida, you could sell 1 square foot of acreage. The clerk of the court's going to record it, and now you've got a lot number, a parcel, and everything else. But when you come to get a house built on it, just like you're running into, or move a mobile home onto it, you can't do it because it's non-conforming.
And like I said, I didn't know that until I was talking to Bonnie about
Yep.
it, and was trying to pull a permit to build a home on it.
Okay. And that's your intent, is to put a home on it?
Build a home on
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the unfortunate repeat, right? You're not the only one, you know, multiple, it happens. I think that the challenge that we're dealing with here is just the size of the parcel. For me, I won't speak for the board, for me, the size of the parcels around this parcel, right? And then how dense we're making the zoning for this piece of acreage, right? If you had a 5-acre lot and we were going from 7.5 to 5, okay, not so bad. But going from an Ag 7.5 where we're surrounded by 40 acres, 119 acres, 50 acres, 5 acres, 33 acres, and then we have a 0.77 acre and we're going to go down to a half-acre density is just extremely challenging for me. And I understand the situation and scenario you're in.
But then why would the county allow the acres to be broke up? And,
Just like Mr. Shepard explained, you can go break any size parcel you want into any size you want it to be. What can then be done with that land could present a challenge as you're experiencing now. So it's not why would the county allow it? It's why it's a right as a landowner to go shave off whatever size piece of your land you want to shave off and go sell to someone. I may not do anything with it, may not be able to do anything with it, but it's a right that you have as a landowner.
well, it wasn't sold to me in that direction, that minor, because they did think it was good. With that whole area.
Right. And that's why we are working to push a ton of PSA, public service announcements out there to the community for this exact reason, because, especially when you have folks coming from Jacksonville out here buying something, and they have no idea that they can't
Yeah, I mean,
build their dream home on it,
Lifelong resident.
So, yep.
All right.
Okay. Madam Chair, any other comments?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, what's the pleasure of the board for ordinance 2025-15? Change it from Ag B to medium density residential?
We have public comment on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You just landowner, applicant spoke and everyone else.
I'll make a motion to deny 2025 small scale land use amendment.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to deny 2025-15 small scale land use amendment from Ag B to medium density residential. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. So motion carries. Board rules. So it's been denied. So then the rest of these,
The companion rezoning.
the companion rezonings, let's just go down the list. So we've got it on record.
Make
Okay.
a motion to deny 2025-16 rezoning.
Second.
Moved and seconded to deny ordinance number 2025-16, rezoning Ag 75 to residential RCMH .5. All in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. And just for the sake of the board, the reason I'm voting against this is I think we'll talk outside after the application is done. Okay. And I think that is it for these two, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Swindell, it's been denied by the board. You're more than welcome to go back and talk with LaDonna, also your county commissioner, and talk to the county commissioners as well.
It'll still be heard by the.
Yeah, it'll still be heard.
Yeah,
by
it'll
the
still be
commissioner.
heard, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you've got 2 more chances, but I would talk to the county commissioners and everything else as well, okay? Because we make the recommendations based on the ordinances and the land use regulations and everything else we have, but we are a volunteer board. We do not have the legal authority to say yay or nay. That is up to the county commissioners.
They'll make
So-
the final decision.
Yes, thank you. Good way to say that. So just wanting to let you know. Yes. So my thought, guys, is this I think is something we should take up very quickly with that whole list of other comp plan and LDR elements to avoid this, because Gabe's been talking about it for years. Here we are again. Now we've passed some of these in the past based on extenuating circumstances. Yes, each application has its own merits, but now here we are denying one. So we've got to become consistent as a board and as a county, what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept. Does that make sense, Gabe?
It does.
Yeah.
And I think that we are consistent because we listen to every case and every detail of everything that comes before the board, and then make the decision based off that.
Okay.
So, I think there have been subdivisions that have come before the board that have been denied. There have been subdivisions that have come before the board that have been approved, and subdivision exemptions that have been denied and approved. So I think that just because we deny one doesn't mean that they're all going to be denied from here on out.
No,
that we're not treating everyone fairly and equally. So
I'm not suggesting that we're not doing that. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. You're welcome to leave, or you can sit here and listen to the last application that we have. All right, Madam Chair, can we take a break for like just 2 minutes, guys? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
If you don't mind? Okay. I'm gonna take a break for 5. Okay, we're back in session. Thank you, everyone, for the 5-minute recess. That was well needed. Appreciate it. So, Madam Director, item 9 on our agenda, NAB over to you, please.
Yes, so 9, 10, and 11 are companion applications, so we'll present those together. So this is for ordinance number 2024-12, small scale land use amendment. The request is from agricultural B to very low density residential, with a companion rezoning of 2025-13 from agriculture 7.5 to residential conventional 1. So on my staff report, just note in parentheses, it does say RCMH 2. RCMH1. It is RC1, not RCMH1. And then a companion rezoning as well of ordinance 2025-14, a rezoning with the request of agriculture 7.5 to agriculture 5. So this property is located back behind the McClenny 2 area. It is what's east of Crepe Myrtle to Roundtree, and then this parcel's north and south of Hickory Street there. So the applications that we are looking at, it is for 87.84 acres of the 368 acre parcel. So what that looks like is this piece in the center right here. That's where these requests are coming from. So the applicant proposes to develop 17 single-family lots consisting of 1 acre or more, and that will be along this area here. So along the paved road frontage of Crepe Myrtle here. That's where the 17 1-acre lots would be. And then the request for Ag 5 would be for the acreage that is behind the 1-acre tracts up to Raintree, so for the rest of this area here. So I kind of tried to zoom these out a little so you could see kind of a better picture. You can see where the current development stops. You know, it's pretty clean cut there, where the McClenny 2 that's been developed stops. So everything here is very low density residential, and then this is RC1, with everything on the other sides being either agricultural zone A or B and Ag 7.5 or Ag 10. So here you can kind of see a better look of how those would be. That's the 1-acre lots. There are 17 of them there. And then there are 5-acre tracts here, 5-acre tracts here, and then these are 10 plus acres here. So it is also the intention to develop the portion that is south of Hickory, which would be this area here. But those tracts will all be 10 acres or more, so it's not required for them to do any sort of land use and rezoning, but we want you guys to have the full picture of what you would be looking at in the future. So there you see our signage. We tried to put signs out along Crepe Myrtle and along Hickory as well, since those are, you know, the two main sides that will have access. So you will see in your staff reports that there were substantial comments from your fire chief and your public works director. Though they were mostly road concerns and concerns about the permitting for the water management district and those WUI requirements. So staff does recommend approval of the land use and rezoning. Just however, we want to make it clear, make sure that the applicant understands that approval of the land use and zoning, they still have to complete the entire subdivision process, and during that subdivision process, they need to understand that they will have to meet all of those road requirements, all of the permitting through the water management district, and all of those WUI requirements.
Yeah, this is the first step.
Right, right.
And that's important for the public to understand as well.
Yes, yes, that this land use and rezoning does not approve these lots. It just gives them the zoning entitlements to potentially
To
create
then
that
pursue
subdivision.
that, but then there's other agencies, St. John's Water Management District, Road Department, and then setback and WUI requirements
Right.
that they would have to comply with as well. So this is just giving them the zoning changes so they can pursue that, because you have to cross the first hurdle. And then that goes before the county commissioners, and then the land applicant, or the applicant, would then have to go through all these other agencies to talk about water runoff, water mitigation, rainwater, stormwater, vehicle access in there for emergency ingress, egress, and then the setback and wildland requirements and everything else. Okay, so there's other agencies that have ruling and legislature in place for that. We're just granting them if this is approved, saying that yes, you can go ahead with this, but you have to comply with all of these other regulations. So does everybody understand that?
And I'll say most of the feedback that I've gotten from the community, the two main concerns were drainage in this area, water in this area, and the state of Hickory. That road, it is not ideal, but it would have to be brought up to a certain standard before it could be developed around it.
Can you go back to the map and point to that portion of Hickory you're referring to?
You're referring to the dirt road?
Yes.
Portion.
So that would be this portion down here.
Okay.
I will tell you, it is not an ideal road right now. So I can definitely understand that concern, but there will be standards that have to be met.
Yep.
For that road.
So can you go back to the one that, the color version of it? Back one more, I believe. So where is ingress and egress out of here? Is it through Hickory? Or is that,
So this essentially is a kind of a circle.
Yep.
But this portion of Raintree is not paved. And this portion of Hickory is not paved. The only paved portion is Crepe Myrtle along here.
okay.
Everything else is private road.
So then all the 1 acre tracts are accessed
Yeah,
through,
the 1 acre tract.
through that hard road, Crepe Myrtle.
Yes, the 1 acre tracts would face the paved road.
And then the others, I guess you would have access coming down around that road to the right on this picture, down Raintree. My concern
for
is
these lots-
this.
These lots here. Yeah, these.
Those could be accessed coming down that outside road, Raintree Road.
Raintree or Hickory.
Okay,
You
or
come in this
Hickory.
way or the other way.
But my concern is those two tracks in the center. How do you get to that? Are we gonna require?
two?
Nope, to
Right.
the left of
The
that,
large
those
one,
two.
yeah.
Those two there, because the 1 acre tracks I can get to from Crepe Myrtle. Hickory, I can get to the 5 acre tracks. I can come out the outside of this, which is, what'd you say that road was? Raintree, that comes up around?
Yeah, Raintree is
Yeah,
this
okay.
this road here.
But then I've got one lot in there that could potentially be a landlocked lot.
Right. During that process, an easement would have to be established
Yep.
to
Okay.
give that parcel.
And
access.
that's a road requirement and everyone else.
Right,
But I'm
right.
just pointing it out. That's the problem that I see with this right now.
Absolutely. I understand that.
Okay. Back to the
Essentially,
board.
it would look like what you've got on Otis Arbor now,
Yeah.
with having to use one driveway that splits in the back,
Yep.
going to the houses behind the 1 acre lot.
And that's kind of what I was envisioning. Okay, comments from the board? Jared?
Not
Anything?
yet.
Okay,
See if any public
Sir?
comments.
good? Yep. All right, I know the applicant's here. Would you like to come up and speak, sir?
Sure.
And George, please make sure you fill out a speaker card for us. Thank you.
I'd like to come speak.
If you have,
As-
if you already have an idea of access or easement.
Sure.
if you want to.
I'd like to speak as much as I'd like to get my teeth pulled without anesthetic.
George, I know better.
So, the one 10-acre parcel that appears to be landlocked, it would have to have an easement go through it. The difference being Otis Yarborough Road is there's multiple families using that easement. That would be a one-person use easement
Okay.
to get to that lot. So, what I would just say on Hickory Street, which is now a dirt road, what we would do to that if this thing moves forward is identical to what we did at Southern Estates. We would come in and regrade it, reshape the ditches, and then put the 5 inches of milled asphalt on it, and then create a HOA for those folks that use that part, that their property abuts onto Hickory Street, to help maintain it in perpetuity and
Yeah.
better than what the county does.
Well, that was a concern. It's just this whole road, because roads are a concern.
Yes,
Every
sir.
meeting you hear, county
Yes.
commissioners, us, everybody talks about roads. So we didn't want to add additional burden to the county that's already maxed out with trying to maintain just the dirt roads that we have.
Yes, sir. So, what I've been hearing through social media, that, like Ms. LaDonna stated, the biggest complaints have been some drainage issues on the original Phase 1 of McClenny 2, which was built in the 1970s, before they really was such a thing as stormwater management plans and whatnot. But now, we've grown, we've learned. So
Mhm.
we now have permitting processes, drainage plans that are done by engineers. So the family is ready to be out of the land ownership business. They've had several offers, have looked at different ways of trying to dispose of the land or to get rid of the land.
Right.
And we really felt like this was a very reasonable way to dispose of 225 acres, putting the 17-acre lots directly across, the 17 one-acre lots directly across the street from existing one-acre lots. So we're not doing any spot zoning. And then the large lots were very successful on our last project, Southern Estates. The type of people that are coming in and buying those type of mini ranches are some of your more successful people.
Yeah.
Not too concerned about, the type of crime that might be associated with this type of growth or development. There are some legitimate traffic concerns, especially with the one paved road coming in and out of McClenny 2 being Estate Street. If this project moves forward, there's still going to be 120 acres left that at some point,
Yeah.
it's somebody's, whether it's me or somebody else coming before you, but that's where your drainage issues are there. And a lot of that can be resolved with a good stormwater plan for that 120 acres and the property across the street that was built in the 1970s. And I would encourage the board that, when that time comes, that 120 acres comes before you, you take a look at requiring paving Tom Norman Road, which is the I-10 frontage, which would then provide a second access into that property that's paved.
LaDonna, is that the reason that we say that there's only one access to McClenny 2, one egress?
Yes,
It's because it's not paved.
Estate Street is the only paved road that comes out onto
Right.
121, because Tom Norman is not.
It's not paved.
It's not paved.
It's county maintained, but it's not paved.
Right. It's used for ingress and egress coming
Yeah.
into McClenny 2.
Right. But in the RCMH 1 zoning and RC zoning, you have that paved road requirement
Mhm.
too, so that's,
Yeah. So different issue.
And then you guys said you'd come in on the Hickory Road and do that 5 inches of milling through there.
Did you do that all the way through to back to Raintree?
Yep.
The entire circle?
Everywhere where we're going to propose a 5-acre lot, we'll have the road redone. And we'll take a look at coming on the north side of Raintree.
That's to be decided at
Yeah.
a later date.
Well, but that's outside of our purview. You'll have to
Yeah.
cross that bridge when you talk
We'll
to the
cross
road
that
department
bridge
and
when we
everybody
get
else.
there, because those are all going to be family lots that are buying the 14 acres to 10 acres. My dad lives right on the north side of Raintree, so we'll get together and figure out if we're going to try to fix that road or
Yeah.
not. But I think it should be left out of what we're doing here. But everywhere I'm proposing a new lot is going to be an improved road and be part of that HOA.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
Good. No?
At the moment.
All right. Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Anybody from the public would like to come up and speak? Yes, ma'am. Make sure you fill out. Oh, you did? Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. I
My
tucked
name-
it away.
Yeah, my name's Ann Reisman, and I live,
If you want,
can you put back that first map?
One more.
The one before it. I live right here. My daughter lives right here with her grandchildren. And I built the house, my husband and I, in 2003. We were probably the 10th house on Raintree at that time on the paved part. And only 4 houses down the dirt road. I think there's 16 to 18 houses down the dirt road now, and our street is full to capacity. There have been no improvements in the roads since we moved there. We are fortunate enough to be on the paved Raintree Road, which doesn't have the potholes like all the other roads do. I walk through the neighborhoods on a daily basis, and I really feel sorry for the people that live in the houses on Dogwood, Birch. The prisoners come out, they take a shovel, put some tar on the road, and they're done with it until the next rainfall. I have pictures of flooding of Crepe Myrtle. That flooding runs off onto the properties. I didn't know I could bring them, but if anybody'd like to see them on my phone, I can show you them. Here's one.
Yes.
I have more.
And that's-
I have like
that's
23 photos.
And that's
This
where-
is the property right here on the paved road. So going right here,
Okay.
our insurance agent actually came to our house one time and said this is a flood zone. So why you want to build property on a flood zone, I don't know. What are you going to do for the drainage? What are you going to do to improve the roads? 5 years ago, I got up here and spoke, and it was the Land County Planning Commission. And it was shut down at this point because the fire marshal also stood up and said you got one way in and one way out. If there's a fire at Estate and Pine, we're all screwed. We're not getting out. Think about Paradise Valley, one way in, one way out, and so many lives perished. Nothing's been improved since this was discussed last time, so I don't know why it's being brought up again. The last time I have the letter that I received, it was just 31 acres they were looking to develop. Now it's 84. I have significant concerns. The people that live down the dirt road, they think as soon as they come onto the pavement, it's a highway and they go like 40 to 50 miles per hour. We either need some speed bumps if they're gonna put more traffic. The journey that's going in also, traffic going in and out of there, trying to get out of our neighborhood because of the traffic from it's gonna be the journey. You also have the hotel there, and then you have the mental hospital. When those people get off work, it's just insane. You can't make a left onto 121. Sorry, I'm very emotional about this.
No. This is what it's for,
Yeah.
dear. For everyone to come in.
I
Yeah.
love my neighborhood as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave, but 30, 35 additional houses, that's at least 70 additional cars. because most people have 2 cars, and then if you have teenagers, there's even more.
Yeah.
And it's all gonna come down either Raintree or Hickory, pretty much. And right now, most of the people, the traffic on the dirt road takes Raintree because Hickory is impassable to get down to the backside of Raintree, down the dirt road. I have
Wow.
pictures of that as well.
That's crazy. Other comments?
Yeah, no, Hickory, it is a bad road. I mean, it's, anytime
I
you go out
spend my
there, you
time
can't
out in the
really-
woods and all that, so I don't really come in.
But-
This is one piece of property I didn't get a chance to go by this week.
If they want to get out of the land business, put a park, put a splash pad. I'm sure all the neighbors in McClenny too will take
That's
care
gonna
of it
create
and
more
maintain
traffic.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it could be for community.
Yeah.
That would be more, yeah, much more traffic there.
Well, then just keep it open because it is a flood zone. It's horrific when it rains.
This, the actual flood zone is the greens that you see.
Right, it's not in
On
the
the
flood zone.
lower.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
actually, it can be, it may be low-lying land, and there could be some bona fide wetlands, but as far as the actual flood zone is concerned, that's where it does lie.
This is along the paved road.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
For the speed, I would encourage you to reach out to the sheriff's office. They handle traffic
Yeah.
violations.
But
That isn't
it's-
anything in our purview here.
Yeah,
on
I
the board.
realize that, but
Right.
it's sheriffs that live down there, so.
So I think that we can't do anything about the speeding, and then as you get
Yeah.
out there to 121, that's going to be the FDOT's
Yeah.
jurisdiction. So there's again nothing we can do there
Right.
on those two concerns of speeding and then getting in and out of estates.
Yeah.
So just to
But
touch on
making
those.
an approval for all that traffic to flow in and out of one way, and it would be on this commission if it was approved. If there be a fire and we could not exit because there's only one exit,
So,
your approval, yes, you could be.
so our approval is to go forward with to grant the NABs the permission to change the zoning, and then they would have to then go before St. John's Water Management District to take care of the flooding and everything else. They'd come out and do some kind of water capacity or wastewater runoff, whatever the storm mitigation plan is. And because now if the NAB family comes in here and puts additional houses, that's more hardtop, more concrete and things like that. So he's gonna have to manage the water that's coming off of that property. And then they may have recommendations for the other side of McClenny too, but that's out of, I don't believe that's the NAB's responsibility. Okay, so there's that, but then there's also the ingress and egress, the emergency services. They've got significant comments in here about that access in and out, and saying that also needs to be included if this is approved just for the zoning now. And then George, as you heard, he came up and said he would, work with those other agencies to implement their recommendations.
Just the other concern I wanted to raise.
Yes, ma'am.
If you actually have been into McClenny too, you'll notice that there are wide lots. The 17 that he's proposing on the Crepe Myrtle, on the paved road, are actually narrow and long. So that is a lot of congestion on that one road.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like all of the existing roads right now, which are wide.
Okay. Have you got any other questions for us?
I appreciate your time, thank you.
No,
Sorry,
thank
I
you.
was very nervous.
No, don't be nervous. We're all neighbors out here, one way or another. All right, Miss LaDonna, back to you.
Was that it?
Well, I
sorry.
just wanted to say real quick, all of our staff reports where our comments are, they're all public records, so you can request those if you want to see, what those comments from the fire chief were and the requirements that I mentioned. You can get a copy of that staff report. And like you saw with the application earlier this evening, if you have something that you want to present, that you want to show, you can email that to us, and we'd be more than happy to to be able to project it for the public.
And the other thing I would say, so not only getting copies, but the county's got a good service that's called iCounty, that you can go out there and sign up for that, and you can get copies of the LPA agenda and all the comments that we're going to talk about here, as well as get Board of County Commissioners, get their agenda and everything that's in there. So you don't have to just rely on the press.
And I'm not against this, as
Mhm.
long as we can get better traffic and maybe another, say, exit out into a different direction, say to 228.
Yeah.
Cut through Braintree on the dirt side all the way to 228, so we have an additional option for traffic flow.
Okay.
And I did bring that up the last time. We need more than one way to.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Anybody else have comments? Okay. Well, we're going to come back to the board. Okay, so for the board, what's the pleasure of the board and looking at the staff report?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-13 rezoning from Ag 7.5 to residential conventional 1.
Okay. All right, I'd like to amend that and say,
Start with the land use one.
yep. And that's what I was
Start with 12
just
instead of
looking.
13.
Yep. Huh? 12, correct? Yeah.
12.
Yep, so ordinance number 2025-12, small scale land use amendment from Ag B to very low density residential. Okay, everybody approve that amendment? All right, hearing no questions, that's accepted. The other thing I would say is on this, I would like to offer to the board that we also include in this the recommendations from staff with the comments from the community development and from the Baker County Fire and Rescue. And LaDonna, I would say you've got in here, staff recommends approval of the proposed land use amendment application 2025-12 from Ag B to very low density. However, the applicant should understand that any and all comments submitted here should be considered. I'm saying must be considered or must be included prior to submitting any future applications. Are you okay? You're saying they
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
saying that they
Right.
must be submitted, so when this comes back, we've
Right.
got all the details right then and there.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, it
That
would
way-
be included in that application.
Yeah, but the
generally
word
you-
should was kind of,
You can't put a condition on a land use or a zoning, so that's why I made it as a note. But changing that would be sufficient, because in order to turn in that application, they must have that documentation.
right, and that's what I'm saying. So, good. Does that make sense, guys, what I'm talking about? On the very last comment here, where it says,
Yeah.
should be considered, I'm saying must be,
Shall be.
shall be included. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-12, small scale land use amendment from Ag B to very low density residential. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that one is approved and carried on. Then the companion rezoning application. Do we have a motion for ordinance number 2025-13 rezoning from Ag 7.5 to residential conventional 1?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025, TAC 13
Second.
rezoning.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 25-13 rezoning from Ag 7.5, excuse me, to residential conventional 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That is approved. Thank you, gents. And then the last companion element is to ordinance number 2025-14 to rezone from Ag 7.5 to Ag 5. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
And a second. Moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2025-14, rezoning from Ag 7.5 to Agriculture 5, Ag 5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. All opposed? Thank you. So all of these carry. George, you've heard what we've talked about, everything that's going to need to be required in there. Obviously, reach out to us if you have any questions. I know this isn't your first rodeo, so you've heard the comments from the public about that water mitigation on the other side. LaDonna, I did have one comment. This has been approved, and this is just nitpicking. But if you look at that map that's to the left there, I know that's from the property appraiser's office. Your staff report says Ag B, but
Yes. I don't think from all the information I can find, that line is not quite accurate. There's some work in the GIS map that needs to be done there.
okay, all right, good. Because I was looking at that and I'm like, well, the property appraiser says it's Ag A.
Right.
So I started going down that rabbit hole. And then I got the staff report and it said Ag B. I was like, okay, which one is which?
No, Hickory seems to be the change there. Across Hickory is where that land use and zoning
Okay,
change. So there's some work that needs to be done on the maps there.
all right. Yeah.
And again, this just entitles it. He's still going to come
Right.
back. There's
Yes.
still more process. There's still more everything that's got
Right.
to happen.
This
Conditions
is the
that
very
can
first
be
step.
set to be met. Or this is simply just entitling the land.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you guys can find all the subdivision requirements and all of that on the county webpage. Go out there on the BakerCountyFlorida.org, I believe it is, and then look under land planning, and then it'll say comp plan and land use regulations, and you can go out there. You can either download it or you can look and see what all the requirements are. That now that this zoning is passed, then he's got to comply with all of those other components. And I don't think we've got any external links to St. John's Water Management or anything like that, do we?
I don't think that we do.
Yeah.
Off
Might
the
be
top of my
nice
head.
to have down the road.
But they have a pretty user-friendly website. So.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
And again, if you got a letter in the mail, it has our office number and my email. If you want a full copy of the staff report or any of those comments, if you just call the office or email me, we'd be more than happy to share all of that information.
So did letters go out to the community? Because I didn't receive one, but I did 5 years ago.
So we did within a 300-foot radius.
Oh, I'm definitely within 300 feet.
So you should have, what's your,
Weissman?
Here, I've got her speaker card here. Gabe, would you pass these down, please? Thank you, man. And by all means, as this continues, this is like we've reiterated here, this is just the first step of many. So, come in, participate. He lives out here. Get to know George, talk to him, and to your county commissioners as well. Because these things don't happen overnight. Now, I will say that I understand your comments about loving the neighborhood the way that it is, but from a long-term strategic vision, at least for myself, I'm only speaking for myself, I'm glad to see the growth and the development kind of stay within the city, or instead of being urban sprawl everywhere.
And I'm all about growth, but we need another way in and another way out.
Absolutely.
I think
What do we?
the additional tax base, additional tax revenue from this development will help fund
Yes,
paving of that
exactly.
road.
And if you turn it into an HOA, they can fight amongst themselves, but at least the funding's there. Get that money up front and build that road. And we're waiting on what?
Confirmation of the mail,
Oh, sorry.
4198 Braintree.
Yeah, at a glance, I don't see you on the list. It is possible that they did a bigger radius back then.
I'm like 2 houses from Craig Girl.
300 feet ain't very far.
No.
Yeah, three.
Yeah, I mean. Did you,
Can-
she doesn't
There's
see us
2.5 pages of
Yeah.
we sent and stuff too, so.
Yeah, she's at 400 feet from the corner.
400.
You're 400, you're 440 feet away from that corner.
So it's likely that they did a 500-foot radius back then.
I was trying to get it pulled up myself.
It goes from the property line to your property line.
But my
That's
neighbor
where
behind me got one, so that
But
makes.
she's closer, she may be closer to the property line. If she's to the south of you, she would be closer to the property line.
Not a very big radius for you.
It's also advertised in the press, correct,
Yeah,
LaDonna?
which is
Yeah.
how I found out about it.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
thank you.
Actually, I found out about it on Facebook because George.
That's-
And that's
yeah.
why we try to do
Yeah.
multiple types of advertisement that way, just in case, you don't need one. Right.
Yeah. Well, and again, before everybody takes off, the other thing that I was talking about was the going to the county website and looking at the LDRs and everything else. But the St. John's Water Management District, if you go to the is this Julie? Is this on the county webpage?
I assume so, sorry.
Health and Family tab on the county webpage, go to Environmental and then Water Management, and that will take you to the St. John's Water Management for all those applications. A little bit convoluted how to get there, but it is out there.
So it's my first and my first.
Thank you, dear.
Period, last name at bakerycountyfl.org.
Y'all have a good night. All right, Madam Chair, back to you.
Just got a question.
Yes, sir.
I have a sign on my road that says the same thing as being rezoned, but I don't have nothing to do with that. Mine's out by Sanderson.
That's the one we got.
We got
coming
one
up
more.
right now.
Oh,
We got one more.
Say goodnight, huh?
That whole crowd was here for the last
No,
one.
everybody was here for the last one.
A minute ago you said that was the last.
Oh, okay, my apologies.
I'll tell you, we had 12 applications tonight, and that is a lot more than we generally have, so just bear with us.
Yeah.
No, earlier he said that we only had one more. I'm like, well, no, there's another one.
Yes, and this is it. This is Sanderson.
You
All
ran
right.
out of fingers.
And I got shoes on, so I can't.
I knew I was gonna be last. That's my luck.
All righty.
All right, so last application for the night, number 12. This application is for exemption to subdivision requirements for preliminary review. This parcel is just north of I-10 at the Sanderson exit. So it is on both sides of 229, along Wire Mill Road and Arnold Road and Road. So it is just over 300 acres with a current land use of Ag B and a current zoning of Ag 7.5. So that land use and zoning meet the request of the lots that the property owner is suggesting. So there's no need to go through a land use or zoning change. The applicant proposes to record a subdivision with platted lots, but the applicant does not propose to develop them. Once the lots are recorded, they'll be available for individual purpose, and the buyers would then develop the property. So, as you can see here, this area, as far as land use and zoning is concerned, has a little bit of everything. So, you see all the different colors there. That's why I zoomed out, instead of just capturing just the map itself. I captured the land use and zoning districts on the bottom, so you can kind of see what those colors mean. The great bulk of it is either Ag A or B, and Ag 7.5 or Ag 10. But if you look just immediately north of the parcel, there is a good mix of different things between the northern end of this parcel and US 90. And just kind of for placement purposes, this little square that's kind of cut out of it here, you can see it a little better there. That piece there, that's where the new fire station was just built. So this is the property immediately surrounding the new Sanderson Fire Station. So you got your land use, your zoning, and then this is the FEMA flood map here. I know we've talked a little bit before here and in lots of places. There is a difference in being within a FEMA flood zone and being within bona fide wetlands. There is a different process for building, whether you are in a FEMA flood zone or whether you are in wetlands. If you only lie within the FEMA flood zone, you are able to build with just an elevation certificate. And during that process, the qualified surveyor would tell you at what elevation you need to build your structure to avoid that flooding. If you are trying to build within bona fide wetlands, there's a mitigation process that you may have to go through in order to build within that area. The reason that I mentioned that, you'll see here, this is the proposal lot layout. The big majority of those lines that you see are either those wetland boundaries or those flood zone boundaries. So there are multiple pockets of wetlands within this parcel. So if you look on the second page of the staff report, there is a layout of the lots and the proposed acreage. So the proposal is 26 lots. All of them are at least 10 acres. The largest one being 30 acres. So most of them are somewhere between 10 and 11 acres, but there is one 27-acre piece and one 30-acre piece. I know this is kind of hard to see when it's zoomed up, but you should have a layout in your staff report as well that's a little more legible to see the difference in those lines. You'll also see in your staff report the fire chief and Public Works had several comments. Most of them concerning the wetness of the area, those WUI zones that you'll remember were established back in 2021. There are some road concerns. This area from I-10 to US 90 is one of the evacuation routes that DOT deems as an evacuation route. So it is a county maintained road, but because it is along that evacuation route, there could be potential DOT involvement in driveways. But without having a driveway layout, there's no way for us to get clear direction as to what that would look like. So staff recommends denial of the proposed application as it's submitted. The way our code reads is that the commission may grant exceptions to those list of things. It does not say that we have to grant exceptions to all of them. So there is room for conversation for a certain amount of floodplain management or road requirements to be on the property owner. So it would be my suggestion that the applicants come back with possibly a process that maybe already has some of that wetland mitigation done through FEMA and the Water Management District. There are triggers that are met once a certain amount of dirt is brought into an area. You may have to do a map amendment or a conditional map amendment through FEMA. Those processes can be a little drawn out, and there's cost involved. We would not want to get into a situation where the first 5 people were able to build their lots with no question. Number 6 comes along and a map amendment has to be done before they could build. So with a project like this, we would want to look at that water management as a whole and not each individual lot.
Makes sense.
Looking at that on its own.
Okay. So I'll start off. I was surprised to see a subdivision kind of going in that industrial area, because I always assumed that would be built out sometime down the road to be
Right.
more industrial. But
There is a strip in between there that's like that commercial highway zoning
Yeah.
that you would see more of.
yeah, that's right there along Light 10,
Right.
229. It's I drive through this area on my way home. And then the confusion from the fire chief, he asked the question, where is it? St. John's Water Management states 300 acres is being subdivided into a large tract into smaller parcels. So he's treating this as a subdivision, and the applicant was asking for an exemption to subdivision.
So
for-
it's still considered a subdivision.
Yes,
but
that's what I thought.
It's exemption to subdivision for, some preliminary requirements. And that is a very common area of confusion. We abbreviate it as exemption to subdivision. We don't always use that same name. So sometimes there's confusion. People think that they are exempt from the entire subdivision process, and they're not exempt from the entire process, just potentially portions of it.
Okay, but looking at the article that was submitted by St. John's Water Management District, they're saying that we have no regulatory oversight for this.
They don't, because there's not any sort of development plan there. So they can't, it's out of their purview without a development plan.
Got it. Okay, makes
That's-
sense. Okay, I thought they were washing their hands of it
No,
altogether.
no, just.
That's
so-
how I interpreted
So
the
you
letter.
can, like we discussed earlier, you can cut out lots of any size
Mhm.
and sell them. So the creation of the parcels is not where they get involved. They get involved on the development of the parcels. So until we have a development plan, where those.
That makes sense.
driveways- Yeah.
My concern was, as I interpreted the letter, was St. John's Water Management District was saying, okay, we're out. And I'm like, for this piece of wet area,
Right.
we wanted their oversight.
And I did, for clarification purposes, because when I first read the letter, it was a little concerning to me as well. So I did reach out, and that's how it was explained to me, was that just for the creation of the lots, they would not be
It's a
involved.
plat land.
Right,
Or they're
right.
not gonna
It-
get involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. But like I said, I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that. I thought they were just, hey, you guys deal with it.
Right, no, not that they would
that
not
was a
intend to
red
be
flag
involved
for
at
me.
all.
Okay.
Right, right.
So he's wanting to create 26 plats and sell them individually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he's asking for. Okay, and staff recommends denial based on all of those comments there, the wetlands, the flood zones, the comments from the fire chief, and everything else.
If he wanted to split 2, there's nothing nobody could do. He can sell 2.
Right.
Mhm.
And the agent for the company is here tonight, and
Yeah,
he,
we'll give him
he
a
may
sec.
be able to answer any questions that I can't. So.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board before?
No, let's hear.
Yep. Sir, come on up.
Thank you, appreciate it. Hi everyone, my name is Pete Scribo. I'm a representative for Arrowwood. I guess a couple things I just wanted to talk about. I was surprised to see the denial when I walked in the door tonight. So as far as some of these items go related to the wetland, if you want to go back to that slide for 1 minute. Some of those lines are actually contour lines and topo lines. They have nothing to do with wetlands or floodplain, so it gets very confusing. That was a requirement of the process. We actually went ahead and looked at the overlay that was that blue blurb also.
Yeah.
That comes from the Water Management District. And those are close, they're done from LiDAR and things like that. We actually went above and beyond and had an engineer come out and delineate. Kimberly Horn, I think, is the engineer that came out and did it. So what we have on ours is actually specifically done within the past several weeks of what's accurate. We don't intend for anyone, ourselves or in the future, to need clomers or lomars. If they did, that would be on them. We've created this layout such that every lot can be developed without any need for mitigating wetlands, impacting wetlands, or impacting floodplain. That's always important to us to make sure that there's upland so that none of those things have to happen. So our plan takes that into account, that none of those things would have to happen in the future. Someone so chose to do that, they could go down that permitting process, and at that time, that would trigger the Water Management District, and they would have to make sure that that was accounted for appropriately within their property. But they do not need to do that on any of those lots. I guess as far as exceptions go, we weren't really looking for any exceptions to anything. I think we comply with all of the rules and regulations of the LDRs. So those are my floodplain and wetland comments. There was the comment about the comment about the FDOT stuff. Is that in the LDR somewhere?
That's actually just information from the Florida Department of Transportation. You can look at their maps and they show you like their evacuation routes and things.
Do they have a requirement in that? Or they just say that's an evacuation route?
It's an evacuation route from I-10 to US 90. So.
Okay. All right. Well, then these people will be able to evacuate quickly and safely. I guess any questions for me about some of the concerns that were raised?
Do we have a copy of the platted,
Of
the 10 acres?
Updated, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The 26 lots?
It's the next. Yeah, it's the next.
It was on the next one?
Yeah, so it
It's-
is
that's-
that.
it's that.
So
Okay, we just can't
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, just
Very good.
when it didn't blow up well. And,
Okay.
But you should have
Yeah, I
in
got it.
your package you have one, and we have a digital version that I can
Yeah.
send you guys as well.
That would be good because this is an eye chart here.
On
Yeah.
that digital version, you can zoom in a little better and have some more clarity on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it now.
We're not home builders, so as far as driveway placements go and things like that, some of these have more frontage than others. They all have at least 200 feet of frontage. We don't create any time frame for the next buyer to build on the property. So some of these people may not build for a decade. I don't know where they're going to put their driveway, and that's certainly up to them. There's no requirement that says you have to put your driveway here or there. Another thing that we do that's not part of this process is we're going to put some deed restrictions on this. No mobile homes, no double wides, no campers as a permanent residence, no unregistered junk cars, and no further subdivision. So everyone will have to, it's not like someone can buy one of these and create a 10-lot subdivision of 1 acre lots and come in. So we're going to put that deed restriction on there as well.
I do have
Okay.
one question for you.
Sure.
For you.
Yeah.
They do this, like right now, where you're talking about the lots.
Yes, ma'am.
Water already backs up where they cleared that property before. Water already sits on my property.
Mhm.
It's been sitting on that deed on the back of my property since the hurricane.
Yeah, you have definitely,
You build that.
you adjoin that
What
property?
is that gonna do to the people that live
my
there?
property right there.
I'm not building anything.
I know,
Yeah.
but you're talking about building all around here, and it's gonna block the water even
Water
more.
drainage.
Your
Come that way.
land, looks like you have wetland on your property, so it makes
Yes,
sense
and
that
we already
it has
know
water.
road
Oh, yeah,
floods.
Yeah,
you're gonna-
yeah, that
you're
makes
gonna
sense.
block more onto it, and it's gonna come, if you build on it, it's not have nowhere to drain.
Because it all drains to I-10 already.
Well, but I think what he's saying is, he's just asking for an exemption for a subdivision
The
requirement.
way he's got it lotted out, that was my concern.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be a cookie cutter type neighborhood.
Yeah.
So he's right, where I'm at, it's gonna flood no matter what.
Yeah, no one's gonna build back
Yeah,
here.
you can't build back
They're
there.
gonna
That was
they're
my
gonna build
concern.
up
I
in
didn't know what they
center.
were gonna do with
Yeah.
that swamp.
Okay.
And, you know, someone's gonna.
The only other concern is, you got all these people moving from Jacksonville, and we moved from Jacksonville to come to Sanderson to get away from all the neighbors, because we had people throwing cabbage and chips into our horses' field.
Wow.
And trying to kill the horses. So now we're moving out here and you're building a neighborhood. Well, what are those people gonna do? And everybody on this whole side of this property line has horses. To stop people from doing the same thing.
Mhm.
These are large country 10-acre tracts, part of an ag area. I think they fit
That's
within.
not ag. You can call it ag, but it's not.
What is it?
50% of it's swamp.
Oh, I'm talking about the neighborhood is, it's zoned ag, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The zone is
Yeah.
ag. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
No, thank you. Any other comments for us, sir?
I guess my only question would be, is there, you know, something that the board feels needs to be addressed?
I think the biggest challenge is, for me, is the lots that come off 229.
229?
Yeah, I think that's gonna, just being that close to the interstate, the amount of traffic there. I think that you have the right, you have the entitlement to do what you want to do. Everything is fronting a county paved road, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
And that was a concern of mine as well, especially with access on both sides
Yep.
of 229.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yep, I
Is there
think-
something that you see that could alleviate any issue with that?
I don't know if you have one singular drive in, or one singular access point to 229 with access easements for folks to then traverse parallel with 229 once you're inside the property.
I think that would probably be a little cumbersome,
Yeah,
but
I
as I'm
agree.
looking at it and talking, I could probably get my partners on board with coupling up on property lines. So we would create one access that's on the property line for these two. Same thing, one for two. That type of a thing, as many as we could, where it wasn't, negative, where it's not wetland, but one for two over here, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Would something like that work?
For me, it wouldn't, to just be transparent with you, especially adding the curve there. That adds another. Not only are you right at a main point of travel for people getting to and from work in the morning and in the evening, adding that curve and having driveways come off of that curve there, I believe it just adds the increased potential for an accident.
So by reducing them, by reducing the number of curb cuts, so to speak, that wouldn't.
Not for as heavily traveled as that road is.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. I think that one singular point in and out, and then folks to then travel parallel with 229. I think from a safety perspective, that's the biggest heartache I have. I would like to also see this wetland map that you have recently had done by Kimley Horn.
It's right there. That's it. That's the overlay from Kimley Horn's CAD file that they sent us.
Okay.
So that's accurate from Kimley Horn.
So that is simply just a wetland map.
So they delineated the wetland.
Okay.
And sent us a shape file, a CAD file to
Yep.
put in our with our surveyor.
Sure.
So.
So what all, I clearly see lot lines.
Yep.
I clearly see a boundary.
So yeah, if you look, the dotted line
Okay.
is going to be when you, if you go home and zoom in on your computer, it's clearly defined as wetland on a PDF.
It's scanned. It's
Yeah.
blurry. It's not
I can
electronic.
email you a PDF.
This one's a little better, so this, you can see the color difference
Okay.
in the lines. And so there are some that are dotted, some that are lighter, some that are
The
dark.
weight, yeah, the
Yes.
weight changes, but I don't have a
Yes.
legend here. Up here, my legend doesn't have any lines. Delineates elevation, delineates soil type. I don't have a.
It's a dashed line. I can email you a PDF if you want.
Yeah, and
Well, there's
I have
multiple
the,
dashed
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, the darker dash.
Wetland boundary line.
There you go.
There
Yes.
you go.
So each track has, I think there's like maybe 2 of them that have a minimum of an acre. The rest of them have more than that.
This just said this is a wetland boundary line, not a field determined line. So it's
That might okay. Since we submitted the original, we've done this twice now. There is
Okay.
a field determined line on that.
okay. Yeah. If,
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have.
Yeah.
Doesn't appear that we have that. So, not that plotting a
Yeah.
2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square foot residence on a 10 acre or greater lot is going to change. There's room, but just like what does that do for access? If we go down the road of access and again, this we're recommending board to
I
the
understand. Yeah, I
county
understand. I
commission,
get it.
right?
I
So,
get it.
they may
I
look
just-
at this thing and they may have no concern with safety and traffic,
Understood.
and that these conversations may just get thrown in the trash. But for me, I think that safety is probably with the lots that front 229 is probably the biggest heartburn that I have.
I understand. I mean, I respect that, and I don't want to just say throw it in the trash. I mean, we want to do good business. I want to answer questions and try and accommodate anytime we can. I think we followed all the parameters and.
No, absolutely. You guys have done a good job. If we could see this, again, like Gabe was saying, if we could see this, and maybe if we could, I don't know if a guy could get it in color or something else to kind of get rid of because you can see the lot lines going north and south there. And
Contour lines don't help. There's too many on there, but that was the requirement. So
yeah, no, but is it layered that you can drop one of those out?
I can try and get one that's cleaned up that just shows
Wetlands.
the field determination lines.
Yeah.
That were-
Yes.
and I can send you I can send you what we have too, and that may.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Kimley Horn did a field determination and dropped the lot lines on, they overlaid the lot lines on top of that too.
Our surveyor has their Kimley Horns file,
Yep.
put it in Academy.
Yep.
Yep. So,
I think that would be beneficial.
yep.
That, and I'm going to echo Gabe's comments because I live out that way. That's the exit that I get off at.
Yeah.
And coming around that curve there,
Yep.
with all having those houses or having traffic coming out into the middle of that curve, would be a concern.
Yeah.
During the day, there's not a lot of, there's more truck traffic, commercial traffic, but that's during the day. But I'm generally heading through there about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's not too bad. But you start tucking houses back in there, school buses and everything else coming out on that.
And with the wire mill and the pipe plant being back there as well, there is a lot of that semi-traffic
Yeah.
that's coming through that area too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to our guys and see. I mean, I will say that as you get up around the curve, I know that the vegetation is pretty thick up in here. There's a pretty decent line of sight. It looks like the right of way is pretty clear there.
Yeah,
Just
all the way
low-
up to that
low
church.
to maintain longer and more, but I'm sure we'd happily be able to. Again, there's no guarantee that it stays that way for the future, but happily
No.
brush, mulch some of that, mow some of that brush that's there too.
Yeah.
Well, and it might be, just like you were talking about, either doubling up, or it might be that the entrance comes into, like on Wire Mill Road or something like that. You come down, you go up on Wire Mill, and then all that traffic comes out of Wire Mill Road and then hits 229.
For the parcels that are
To the
on
east.
the
To the east, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I guess my problem, there seems to be issues that need to be addressed collectively, right? Like the critical water, the roads, the, like,
What
if,
about the water?
so like the suggestion that a subdivision like this needs a water infrastructure to go along with it.
Like a water line, like potable, like drinking
Well,
water,
let's
That
read
was
the.
that was one of the fire chief's comments.
Oh, he
that-
just
Oh,
wanted.
I'm sorry. Has he not? He hasn't seen the notes.
I just saw
So
them before I walked in. Yeah.
thought
Oh,
that
wow.
He had
Okay.
the information, but
So,
obviously not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's to a rural 10-acre tract to bring a water line out there. I don't believe that that's a requirement of the LDRs for something like this.
So,
So his notes are, a subdivision such as proposed should be required to provide critical water infrastructure to provide fire protection as well as other community needs. An approved site plan with a dry fire hydrant system
So that's-
and
Gotcha.
that was
either
the-
cisterns or SWMF ponds shall be provided by civil engineer.
I mean, the fire department's right there. You can pull a hose to a couple of lots, but,
Voluntary fire.
Yeah.
It's a voluntary fire station, so they're not there
Yeah.
all the
No,
time.
that's a manned fire station.
Okay.
This is a fire station.
but, yeah, I mean, I don't believe that the LDRs require that for this type of, product.
And
Yeah.
just for some clarity on that
opinion.
too, you know, our LDRs do not cover, you know, fire code requirements. So
Right.
That, you know, if, whether that's a suggestion from him or a requirement from him, you know,
well, that's why
if it's in fire code.
yeah, we've
LDRs
got,
can
we've got,
cover that, so.
he's correct in that it's not recorded in our LDRs, but that's why we're going through to revamp all of this.
That's why we have the process, absolutely.
But.
So, yeah, let me just finish.
Yeah,
so,
go
so the
right
critical
ahead,
water, he mentions the wildland urban interface. You know, any adjustments that might be required collectively.
Yeah. So that's, I think 95% of your county residents live in the wildland urban interface.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why these people are gonna wanna move here too. So 95% of the county, I think, is impacted by that. So that would affect even, you know, the last little thing we talked about, those lots there. I mean, he talks about 100-foot setback. I don't know how those 1-acre lots, when they come to fruition, are gonna have 100-foot buffers, but, yeah, I mean, I that's, again, something that's new to me, but also, I don't know where, is that, I tried to look at, again, this just popped into me. Is that in the LDR somewhere? Because I did a quick search and I can't find that.
It was a separate,
Okay.
it is separate.
It was an adoption,
It was
correct?
an adoption, and that adoption happened since our last LDR update.
Gotcha, okay.
But that is, I can send that to you.
Okay,
I have a-
yeah, I'm happy to take a look at it. I think with 10-acre lots, I think you're well equipped to handle anything like that compared to a 1-acre lot.
And that's something too, you know, I can send you that information in the morning, and that way you have a chance to review
Okay.
it before.
Tuesday.
Before Tuesday.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
So,
Ladonna, am I allowed to have a copy of that?
absolutely, yes, sir.
So I can read it better too?
Absolutely.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Any other comments first? Any other?
Unless there's anything I can answer for you.
No,
I'm-
you've been
okay.
helpful for me, Gabe.
No, for the applicant.
Okay.
I've got a question for Ladonna.
You good? All right, Miss LaDonna, back to you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right, back to the board. Any questions for LaDonna?
What's the next steps after this, Ladonna? If this goes through, what happens next? After the county, say it goes to fruition, you know, we say yeah, the county commission says yeah, what's
So
after
if
that?
everything was approved with no conditions, they
Okay.
would move forward with the plating process.
Okay,
If conditions are made,
Yep.
then we go back and forth with those conditions,
Yep.
and we see those conditions met.
okay,
And once those conditions are met, it would be seen by the board again.
yep,
Generally just a one meeting
sure,
a one meeting approval to make sure that they're okay with the conditions that have been met, and then they would go through the plating process,
Okay.
which would, you know, in these cases, they don't have to be signed by every entity like, you know.
So if
a
it's
regular
approved with no
subdivision.
conditions, he plats it and he's selling lots?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, guys, any questions?
And so, and then too, the same way that I share my conditions with you guys, or my concerns with you, any proposed conditions that you guys have, I'll take that
Sure.
next week. So, like the driveway, for example, having one
Yep.
ingress and egress off of 229,
Yep.
you know, that's a suggestion that can be shared with them.
Yeah. Okay, no, I appreciate you explaining that. With that, I mean, I don't know what I mean, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like you're 10 lots on Arnold Road there.
If I'm not mistaken, I think so. I think there's 6 on one side and 4 on the other. Yeah, so I think there's 6 on the west side and 4 on the east side, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. How many lots total would there be?
26.
26 lots.
A minimum of 10 acres.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of them at like 10, 10.1.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What's the
Maximum of 30.
Yeah.
Just looking at the condition of Arnold Road. I mean, is that thing gonna fall? You do this, and now all that traffic's running up and down Arnold Road.
Arnold Road and Road is,
You know, is that thing about to fall apart?
it's in passable condition, where you come around 229.
Yeah.
229 is hard road. Arnold Road is dirt right there at the Y, and then it becomes paved like one block from US 90 to the voting center, the Sanderson Community Center. From the 90 going south, it's just paved right there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it's in fair condition.
Yeah, it's in
I don't
fair
see-
condition.
I
It's-
don't even
it's
see
not-
the potholing at all.
no, there's not really anything like that
Okay.
because it's right now it's not a heavily traveled road.
Okay. All right.
All right, gentlemen. What's the pleasure of the board? Staff is recommending denial. We've gotten some new information. We've requested some information. Do we deny this? Do we table it for another meeting? Or do we approve it and move forward and let the county commissioners deal with it?
Well, Donna, if we tabled it, the county commissioners would not hear it Tuesday.
They would.
They would not until we got
They
the-
would not.
I don't think we need to put it off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I could make a suggestion, my suggestion, whether it's approval or denial, either way, I would, for you guys to approve or deny with some sort of conditions.
Sure.
Whether that be approval with
Yep.
whatever conditions,
Yep.
or denial unless certain conditions are made.
Yeah.
So that would just be my suggestion. That
Yeah.
way that it does keep the ball rolling. It
yes,
doesn't,
and I don't
it
want
doesn't kick
to
them back to
delay
square
it.
one, because I really don't think at this point, and this is just my opinion, I don't think we're to a point that we should go back to square one yet.
Yeah.
Because even if the suggestions that I've made and the suggestions that you guys have made, if he were to take those suggestions back and bring that back to us, the commissioners may still have additional suggestions,
Right.
and that would be
Right, that puts us 2 months out.
right, and
And
that's
that's
not fair to the applicant. I don't
No.
feel.
We have an option to approve or deny with conditions.
Yes.
Those have to
Yes.
be
Yes.
specific conditions
Yes,
Indeed.
absolutely.
tonight.
Yep.
Yes.
And if I could get the applicant to repeat those deed restrictions that he intends to impose or will agree to impose on the property, could he repeat those, please? Could we have him up?
Yeah, so he did say, no mobile homes.
Okay.
No further subdivision.
Yeah, he can come up and tell us.
Yeah, I've got a draft I'm working off of here. So it's going to be, tracks will be used for single-family residential, recreational, and/or ag purposes only. So no McDonald's or
No multifamily.
Yeah, correct. No multifamily, no apartment buildings. No tract may be subdivided into smaller tracts.
Now, with the family lot provision, could they,
Not if it is a deed restriction.
if it's deed restricted?
If it's deed restricted,
They can't do that. Okay.
They can't subdivide it any further.
All right.
We don't prevent someone from building a home and a guest house, though.
Right, now,
But
yes.
Sure.
Like an in-laws
Yep.
suite or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
guest quarters would
Yep.
be allowed within that zoning, but with those guest quarters, we have restrictions on the square footage, it can't have a
Yeah.
kitchen, so we're
Per year, yeah.
Yep.
protected
Okay.
under those.
No mobile homes to be allowed.
Okay.
No recreational vehicles are permitted to be used as a primary residence. So you
Okay.
can't just drop a,
Yep.
yep. No junk cars, abandoned cars, scrap, trash, or other debris may be placed on any track. And then we have kind of a no mineral development, no mining or quarries or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like
Can't
that.
supplement or
Yep.
mineral
And then we have another one that's kind of a generic, no nuisance clause, like don't be a problem.
Okay.
It's a generic clause that we use that just says
Be a good
no
neighbor.
toxic substances, no excess traffic, no activity for profit or whether for profit or not shall be conducted on a track which is not related to the occupation of the track for single-family residential purposes or bona fide agricultural activities. Just something, it gets just so people,
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be like no home occupations and things like that.
generic.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, that then rules out
if-
commercial, rural, or anything like
But if
that.
someone's a CPA and they work from their living room or something, there's not creating extra traffic or a nuisance, just working from home is fine.
Yeah.
And that's just a short list.
No
about-
minimum square footage.
That's
We're not-
where I was going
requirement.
to.
Yeah, we are not gonna do that, but I'm certainly not opposed to it. I
Okay.
mean, no tiny houses, you want 1,000 square foot or something, I
Right.
get that.
Yeah, that's where my head was at too, is a square foot
Yeah,
requirement.
I can do 1,000 square feet. That seem fair?
I'd like
On
to
a
see it more than that.
10 acre tract, I
14.
think, what's that?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I'd recommend a minimum of 1,500.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think
18, yeah.
anything under 15, you're,
Can we split the baby?
I will say that most of the other ones that we have in the county that have a square footage requirement, most of them are generally 1,000 feet.
But is that ship homes
when's the
or,
last time you've seen an application for a home to come in under 1,000 foot?
It's not very common. It's
Yeah.
not very common.
I mean, so
But I
like,
will
what's the
say-
point? And to
I
me,
will-
what's the point?
yeah,
I will say 1,200 is probably
I
a
can,
very
You can build a decent
average-
house.
I could
That's
probably-
a very average, so if we were,
I could probably sell 1,200. So we'll go with that to my guys.
Can I say, what does that do to the value of my property? I have 13 acres in a 3,500 square foot house, 12 stall barn. When they put these 1,000 square foot houses out there, it's gonna drop.
well, what they're saying,
They
They're doing
couldn't put
that,
anything
yeah.
smaller than that.
This is saying this is-
It was like tiny, I mean, it's gonna drop the value of my.
We don't have to do anything. I'm offering to do something.
I'm just saying, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, that's the.
Well, that is-
reason for
that's why we
putting
brought it
them
up
is
as
so
well.
that they couldn't put a tiny house or something like that. So that's
Yeah.
why.
I was gonna say, what are they gonna do about right here is the water mill and the pipe plant? All them trucks park, there's like several semis that
Mhm.
go up and down this road, they park on the side right here, on both sides, what are they gonna do about that?
You can't see, when you're at that stop sign, you can't see around.
I'm just-
well, and that's part of why we were talking about driveway requirements and ingress and egress, traffic coming out of that piece of property onto 229, that, there's not a blind curve there because there's good visibility, but there's a potential for accidents right there because of heavy equipment, semis coming through there, as well as, now you have to factor in that if you got schools in session and you got a school bus coming out of there, and then cars. So we're talking that's one of the other things that should be a stipulation is mitigate the traffic coming out of there onto that curve on 229. Am I accurate?
So if we're talking about that, that's something that you would have to have a traffic study done to,
Well, yeah, but they're not doing that.
Right.
Because they're just looking for plating.
Because they're not
So-
building a subdivision.
They're not building the subdivision. This would be
They're selling 30
individuals.
lots to anybody that wants to do whatever, not
Right.
whatever,
And
but
then it would be up
they
to
may hold
us
on to
as the
it.
county to say, okay, you bought that lot that's right here on 229. You need to figure out where you're gonna put your driveway so you're not dumping out here. You're gonna have, that's gonna be a stipulation on that individual landowner. So you see what I'm saying? Because if we give them the approval on this, they're not building the subdivision, so they don't have to do the traffic study or anything else. They're just selling the lots. Then whoever buys that lot, then we're putting the onus on them to figure out how they're going to manage the traffic coming out of their lot onto 229 there.
right, unless, like we were talking earlier, with some sort of shared access or something, unless an agreement was between the property owners and
Right.
the county to go ahead
An access
and
easement.
define
That's
that
right.
access.
Yep.
So what would you call that, Gabe, in your vernacular?
I would condition it upon a single point of egress.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
can you
then I
jot
know
that down there?
I
Yeah.
can't do that because of, then I'm basically then I have to, then what is the standard of the road? Then I'm basically doing a subdivision. You know, now I'm building a road that has to be to certain standards and.
I don't think you are. I don't think you are at all. I think that you're agreeing that there's gonna be a single point of access and that's it.
And then create an easement across all the lots for
Yeah.
everybody to get to them?
Yep.
My guess is I'm gonna get pushback from that on my folks, but as I look at it, just based on the way the wetlands are and things.
Yeah, they're just, without mitigating some of that. wetland.
Yeah, I was thinking.
On the parcel to the west?
Maybe it just gets cumbersome, but I could do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of 10.
Excuse me,
I'd
one
probably do
second.
6 instead of 10. If I share it.
Too much water.
I mean, if we had that wetland map, it would help this conversation, but
Yeah.
I'm going to the wetland inventory here online to see how close it gets and where it's at.
It just. I don't think that, then it becomes create an easement, people gotta go across other people's property, I just don't, in the middle of, it just creates.
I mean, for me, I'm a parent,
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
And I would rather 229
Yeah.
be my backyard and have a fence there, and that's my backyard,
Yeah.
and my front yard is safe
inside your-
for my
yeah.
kids to
Sure,
play.
sure, I get that.
So, I mean, I would prefer it that way as a parent.
I mean,
You know, so I think it's safer all the way around for the families. I think it's safer for the citizens and the traffic. So I don't know that you're creating a adverse impact that's not going to be sellable. You know,
I get that. That one I just know that I think is going to be harder for. It's not so much it's not sellable. It's who builds it, who maintains it. Then I create a homeowners association or like a road maintenance association.
Sure.
Share the thing, and I don't think that was the goal of this project. The project was.
Maybe just for some clarity purposes, if we were discussing just shared drives between two parcels,
Yeah.
then that's something that you feel would be manageable on your end.
Yeah.
But if it's anything above that, that would be a hard push for you guys.
It
Is that?
it opens a can of worms for us.
So let me ask you this. So instead of trying to instead of us,
To make sure that that's.
Yeah.
instead of us trying to engineer this here ad hoc, why don't we take the recommendation, like Gabe was saying, like 1 point of ingress, egress, you know, it's gonna be pushback on your team, but you guys come back and then say, here's what the stipulation was or what the requirement was,
Yeah.
and here's our counter proposal to that.
Here's
That
what-
way, we're not sitting here going back.
Yeah, the buck don't stop here.
Right. Well, and that, and I mean, yeah, I mean, it may be a tough pill to swallow, but you're also about to increase traffic on Wire Mill Road and Arnold Road and Road. That's going to put a strain on the county infrastructure, right?
Hopefully the
Yeah.
taxes
I-
are more than covered.
Yeah, that 1,100 square foot house. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Bringing
not-
them in.
I can tell you the price
So-
points of these properties. People aren't building 1,100 square foot houses.
Right. That's why we need.
So why would
I would set it at 1,800.
Thank you, that's what I said
Up
originally.
the minimum deed restriction.
Because my folks just typically won't want to do that. Is my guess. It's
I get it. They're here. They're here to make money.
it's gonna help.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's gonna fix itself. Someone that's coming out here to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a piece of property are not gonna build.
Well, I think our job is to make sure it fixes itself. No, don't leave it up to the guy building the house.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
So I'd put 1,800 square foot minimum on.
you were at 1,500 last.
I changed my mind.
Yeah.
We'll be at 2 in a minute.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We may.
Yeah, we can keep going.
Not do any of that. I don't know.
And that's
I'll
why,
see what
when I was talking earlier, I was just saying, for what we generally see on those deed restrictions, it's generally like a 1,000 square foot minimum that we
Yeah,
see.
that's tight.
Right, and are we just checking a box?
Right.
Like, let's just not check the box, because who's building a 1,000 square foot home?
Right.
Very minimal, right, on a 10-acre tract. So again, as you mentioned,
Most people are going to build a 2,000, 2,500 square
That's
foot
right.
house on 10 acres, and
That's
you don't
right.
want a 1,100 square foot house next to you.
Exactly.
It's the only
You
reason
wanna
I would
keep it
recommend.
consistent. So
Again, don't have to do deed
Yeah.
restrictions, but we're gonna do it because we do care.
Yeah.
Whether a square footage gets in there or not now, I don't know what it'll be, but we do want to do deed restrictions so there's no mobile homes out here and no campers. It's not a campground. It's not a.
It's not a campground, it's not a little tiny house.
Yeah, that's not the goal of this. That's why we do that. So I hope that you guys can see that for what it is. But yeah, we're trying to create a product that does bring value to the community, not just a tiny house. That's not the goal.
if he's going to keep talking, I need to make the
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry. My bad.
You're good.
All right.
See that, Clint.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? Maybe you were taking some good notes, so we'll take your motion.
I'll make a motion to deny based on the following items needing to be addressed with the applicant. I would like to see 1 point of ingress and egress for the western development along 229. I believe that, as stated, for the safety of the citizens. The applicant has also agreed to deed restrictions, which LaDonna and the team can put together to accompany the denial. Some of which include no mobile homes, no unrestricted cars, no additional subdividing, and a home size deed restriction.
I think barn dominiums would need to be addressed too. That's what everybody's wanting to do.
So when it comes to that, we've had a lot of discussion, and we are trying to educate property owners about the true definition of barn dominium. So a lot of people are under the assumption that they can buy a metal steel building and they can turn it into a home. Well, most of your metal steel buildings are only rated for utility purposes. So if they purchase one of those structures and intend to turn it into a home, they have to go through the engineering process to change that structure from utility purposes to habitable space. And most people have found that that is not financially feasible. So you can, you can build a home and have the look of a barn dominium without it truly being a barn dominium, what people think a barn dominium is. So you would be restricting the look of the home if we added that. I mean, we could add that, you couldn't have a barn dominium unless it meets, Florida Building Code and all of those things, but
Right.
we're gonna be doing that anyways. And
We can deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Well, yeah, and,
Yeah.
and, and
And
the
it-
structure, I mean, I think you break it down to the structure, right? Is like,
Right.
any structure that,
That's to meet the
that's
building code
not
requirements.
designed to be,
a single family dwelling,
Correct.
it's not gonna meet the standards
That's
that we're
right.
gonna require.
yeah, I think that's how you get
And
that.
with these types of tracts, these large acreage tracts, that may be a look that some of them are wanting. That more
Well, it is. Anytime
agricultural-
there's a large tract of land,
Yes.
there's a lot of people that want to build barn
So
dominiums.
we've tried to be very clear with people when they are coming in with, to apply for building permits. Luckily, we are able to speak with most of them before they have purchased a metal structure, and we're able to explain the requirements.
When I'm selling properties, that's probably the
Yes,
biggest question I
it
get
is.
asked.
It
Can you
is.
build a barn dominium?
It is, and there's
a big variance of whether you can or you can't. I mean, it's big.
absolutely.
Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I think that needs to
Absolutely.
be known.
And there's not much difference in a barn dominium and a mobile home. The look of it, sorry. When you look at it on the property.
Okay, so we've got a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, sir, it's denied, but LaDonna will come back to you with all the requirements. Give that to you and your team, and then, when it comes before the county commissioners.
Can I ask one question?
Absolutely.
Should I prepare something ahead of Tuesday to present?
Absolutely, if you want to, absolutely, and if you just email it to me, I can have it,
Perfect, okay.
I can have it, absolutely.
Thank you.
But I would wait until you get the final requirements from her based on all these conversations. They'll go back and listen to anything that was mentioned here. That way you've got one complete list. You're not submitting Exhibit A and then, oh, here's an amendment to that.
Understood.
Yeah, we can plan to have a conversation tomorrow
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
and get to that,
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay, is there any other comments? Thank you, guys. Appreciate you participating. Young lady, I've seen you there all night. You've been very quiet. I hope you found.
She's with the clerk's office, she's taking the minutes tonight.
Ah, okay. Did not recognize you. I was like, okay. All right. Any other business? So I'm going to just say one thing. So I don't know, it's like watching paint dry, me writing, going through that analysis because we've been talking about it
Oh, yeah.
for a while. Nothing's really been done with it. So I'm going to just continue churning that stuff out. I'll send it to LaDonna, and then at some point in time, I guess whenever we get a workshop, we at least have a first blush of it, okay? All right, meeting adjourned.